right, what's going on, y'all? Or one person that normally comes on here and conversates. I wanted to have a quick chat about something. So, just for clarity, I am at work on patrol right now, so I am walking. But I want to talk about work and, you know, basically getting ahead in life. And I just want people's opinion on something. You know, I want to get people's opinion. You know, there's a lot of people right now that feel like, getting ahead is very, very hard right now. It's very tough. When I say getting ahead, I mean, basically, in short, putting yourself in a position through your own effort and diligence, whether it be work or saving money, some level of investment or business venture, or just possibly even a career upgrade in some way, to where your lifestyle, your quality of life can be considerably better, easier, and more comfortable. Oh shit. Fuck, almost bust my ass just now. Right? So when I say hold on one second, y'all. All right, y'all, I'm back. So I was talking about basically people that's trying to put themselves in a better position through their actions, basically. And I'm basically just wanting to have a discussion about it, even though no one's on here. Um, I'm talking to myself. But if anyone finds this topic interesting enough to dive into or whatever, yeah, let me know what you think. What do you think? Is today's world, does it seem like it's easier or harder to, work your way to a better position in a better quality of life through, things like, again, investing or starting some kind of business or venture? Or do you think it's kind of just like a pipe dream? A lot of people, include myself at times, kind of just feel like it's kind of pointless. The cost of living just seems to be so far apart from the wages. And I'm not even talking about like minimum wage. I'm talking about like, consider like the average income of the average working American. And I already know what y'all are going to probably say. Well, well, why don't you go to college and get some kind of skill? Whenever people talk about people wanting to make more money and have a better quality of life, the first thing people say is, oh, well, you got to get a skill. You got to go to school. You got to go to college. Listen, nowadays there's people in college that have tons of college debt that went to school to supposedly, get a better quality of life. Now they just have more debt and they're from paycheck to paycheck. So at one point, agreed with that point of view. But now, not so much. And y'all, I'm sorry if this camera keeps shifting. I'm having to open up these doors. And when I get down to the bottom down here, or down there rather, I'm going to have to put the phone down for a second because I got to lock the gates up and I need both hands to that. So, but that's not yet though. But anyway, yeah, what is y'all opinion on that? Because again, a lot of people will say, well, if you want a better life, go to school, go to college, get a degree, get some kind of skill, which is true. There's truth in that statement, right? Just go get a degree, just go to college, but now again, like I said just now, there's lots of people that went to college and either they can't find a job or what it paid once then with the quality and the inflation, it's not even really worth what it once was, or they can't find a job, or they either can't find a job or they can't find a job in what they want to basically get or do. Right? In other words, there's lots of people with degrees that can't find a job or can't find a good paying job that they originally went to school for, and also too, it's because what makes a degree so valuable is when other people don't have them. When everybody starts going to college and getting a degree, it's like, well, it kind of makes it to where it's like, well, we rather have more, experience than this piece of paper right here. So a lot of people that originally went to college for the degree, for the right to earn a higher wage, a lot of them now are realizing that, everybody's getting degrees now, and so nobody really cares about if you have a degree. Now people really care about, do you, So that's one argument to argue, I guess, not really argue, but just that's one point in the whole topic is, automatically, if you, do the work and get a degree, well, that's basically how you can earn a better wage, which can basically get you higher pay and ultimately a better quality of life. But again, if that's your argument, You have to take into consideration all those things that I just said just now. So aside from that, there's some people that say, well, you just have to, spend less money, live cheaper, basically sell all your belongings and live at the very, very bare minimum, modest, quality of life. No eating out, no going to the movies, nothing extra, basically, just the bare necessity essentials. And this is basically just to, again, work yourself and put yourself over time in a position to where you can work your way or earn your way to a better quality of life, meaning you don't have to work as much or as hard. You actually have the extra time and resources financially to do what you want to do, go where you want to go, and get what you want to get when you want to do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically the goal of the whole point of doing all that, basically, to get into that position in life, And yes, you have to work. You have to work, you have to save, you have to make sacrifices. I believe in all that. I understand all that. But sometimes I question myself and I think, man, in a rigged system, if the system is rigged, and I do feel like it is rigged a lot of times, even if you do everything right, take all the proper steps, you're consistent, you make sacrifices, you do all the things that people say you're supposed to do, you manifest, you basically live in the reality in your mind that you're trying to create. You stack your money up. You kind of stop doing stuff like, spending all your time and money on women and stuff like that. You focus on yourself. You meditate, all this kind of shit, You solely focus on yourself. You basically become a hermit and basically just completely just isolate yourself to focus on yourself and your life. You do all these things. Do you think that that guarantees people to get what they're trying to achieve or manifest? Do you think that is enough? Or do you think that, it's still kind of a roll of the dice, basically? See, this is I struggle with this right here. I struggle with, if I do all the right things, develop the right attitude and keep the right attitude, can I get to that place in life that I'm trying to ultimately get to? Can I achieve that destination? Or am I just kind of laboring in vain, And I go back and forth in my mind with, am I just not, thinking positive enough? Am I just, wanting to skip the process? Am I just, what I mean? It's just, I question everything so much, and it's really hard to truly grasp, oh hell, another unlocked door. Okay. It's really hard to grasp sometimes, what is actually true, what you should actually believe. I struggle with that. And this is coming from a person that, I try really hard to keep a optimistic, I don't even want to say positive, I'll say an optimistic outlet. I don't think that positivity is necessarily, or optimism is necessarily positive. It can be considered positive in one aspect, but it's just basically, to me, being optimistic is basically myself. I would like to consider myself somewhat. I want to retain some, because I believe in a higher level of, consciousness as well. I believe those laws operate in some way, on some higher level of existence. So I try to, to some level, afford myself some level of that power, because I believe it exists. All right, 1 second, y'all. Let me let this gate thingy down here. All right. Come on. I gotta just close this gate, y'all. This big ass gate. Luckily, they actually installed a real gate this time. Well, they had like these other kind, like flimsy ones installed right here, so it makes it a lot easier to close it. All right, that one's locked, so now I have to go up here and scan this other badge scan. But yeah, gotta get up this tall hill. Get my workout in, y'all. Hell yeah, work them legs out. Work them legs out. Let's get it. But yeah, I forget what I was saying, y'all. But anyway, so yeah, it's just, I struggle with that. With if any of this is really true in the sense of what people are saying that it is. If you just don't give up and keep going, it takes a lot of hard work. But then part of me, I see a lot of other things. See, the problem is, man, here's my problem with a lot of these types of things. The problem is I see a lot of things. I see a lot of things in this reality that contradict a lot of the things that people say about success. And I'm kind of seeing more and more of it. So, I'll kind of be observing myself on my journey of, becoming the person that will basically, I guess, attract the kind of success that I'm looking to attract and manifest. But then, I'll look around the world around me and I'll see so many things that completely contradict, what I'm told about, people that, the kind of person you have to be to basically, experience or achieve success, to that level, on that level. And, I really try not to see stuff like that and second guess myself and be like, man, but it's really hard not to, because again, I see so many things about this world that just kind of makes me like, how does that work? How does that work? You got people out here working 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs. Well, I won't say 6 jobs. Well, you got people out here working 2 and 3, 4 jobs and just basically doing everything they can do to make things better for themselves, for their families, make things easier. But then you got other people that's basically literally becoming like billionaires. And I'm like, what are these people doing? Y'all give me like 1 second. All right. 1 second. Okay, I am back. But yeah, like, what are these people doing to this level of success? Like, what are they doing? And you know, I'm a person. I want to know what the formula is. You know, because you know, evidently, if you haven't reached this level of success, then clearly, you know, they know something you don't know, or that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, well, what are these? So I try to study, especially nowadays, successful people. I'm like, what are these people doing? I'm like, okay, I will learn. What are you doing? And I'm just like, I'm trying to like learn, you know, and I'm just like, some of the biggest people, like, I'm just like, I don't, and I'm not trying to hate. I'm just, I don't get it. I'm like, this thing cannot just all be about hard work, because even with that, that can be manipulated. There's a cheat code for that. In other words, big online on Instagram, on YouTube, you have to get your following up. You have to post and make content consistently. But you know, you have to have your subscribers, you have to have lots of people watching. But I've seen that there's so many different little ways that you can cheat the algorithm and basically cheat the system, basically. So even something that has rules, people are finding ways to cheat that system. So my whole thing is, okay, if this is all about doing the work the hard way, then why are people basically kind of finding little cheat codes to skip around the so-called work by tricking the algorithm and, you know, all these little loopholes? You got people that literally will do like this thing called data farming or something like that. It's basically when somebody creates a whole bunch of fake accounts, and basically like people use those accounts to artificially inflate their viewing and like their views and stuff like that. Because to get views and stuff, you literally have to basically have to get a following, to get recognized by the algorithm. You have to get views, you have to get a certain amount of time and stuff, basically a certain amount of time watched, and you know, you have to have a certain amount of subscriptions. So people have literally found ways to hack the algorithm to basically cheat that whole process. You know, and the algorithm was already kind of biased, but now it's basically like, again, people have found ways to literally hack that whole process and make it so where other people that are really doing that whole process organically, they're wondering like, why am I not, you know, getting the, because other people are cheating. People are cheating. You have literally have some guy literally that has a whole room of cell phones with fake accounts that are basically creating accounts and creating accounts just to basically artificially create views and memberships or subscriptions to trick the algorithm into believing that that person's content is being watched more than it actually is. And people are doing this now. I mean, it's crazy. So when I think about people saying, oh, just, you know, do the rules and stuff, you know, you have to just hold on 1 second, y'all. 1 second. I need both hands again. All right. So again, like I was saying, when I think about people saying stuff like, just do the work and, you know, stuff like that, I'm like, people that are blowing up, a lot of them are basically paying for the amount of attention that they're getting, basically. At least that's how they're basically getting off the ground, at the very least. And then people are being tricked into seeing that and actually believing that these people are way more popular and relevant than they actually are. But when people see numbers, they're like, oh my, and you have no idea why this person's so, famous. But like you see, like when people see numbers in their mind, it's like, oh my God, this person, they're so famous. Not realizing that, they just kind of either bought those numbers or paid somebody to basically create that kind of following or the illusion of that following for them. And that's what makes their numbers. Because I'll be like, how in the world? You know what I'm saying? And I watch the shit that people do. And I'm like, it's funny at times, but it's just like there's no real, they're not really doing nothing. They're not really doing nothing. And that's fine. If people like that, that's fine. But I'm just like, I know for a fact that people that are doing way more, I would say, valuable kinds of content than that, they aren't getting the attention that they deserve. Like, if people view that content that valuable, then there's other people out here that should be way, way farther ahead than what they are. That's all I'm saying. So the whole system is definitely off. The whole process is just it's been corrupted. Just the whole idea of just working your way up, to me, I think that is a lie. I think they're lying, and yeah. Okay, so there's that side of it. There's also the side of it where people will say, well, people feel like in other countries, people have it way harder than what we do here. And again, I there is truth in that, But one thing I will say is, in other countries, a lot of people, a lot of families actually work together as a unit. They'll live together until individually they can all kind of go off and do their own thing. We don't do that here. As soon as you're 18, you got to get out. As soon as you get married, you got to get out. And I believe that's one of the biggest reasons why we can't actually, even in this climate, I feel like even in this climate, if a lot more of us move like that, we will be able to get to a better position in life. Because I've noticed a lot of the Spanish families and Indians, they'll live together. I mean, you'll have a whole, married man and his wife and kids living with his mama and daddy until they save money up individually and can get their own spot. And that's normal. Now here, if you do that, if you do that here in the States, you a mama's boy. Oh, you 36 and you living at home? You a mama's boy. No, you're a mama's boy if you ain't working. It's a difference. A lot of these people, they have like family-owned businesses and they live together. To me, in my opinion, this is how you build wealth. This is why, honestly, if I ever have kids, and my business really gets going good, like I'm going to offer them like, you know, a good position with pay if they want to. They don't have to. And, you know, honestly, like having your own space is nice, but I would rather end this whole poverty thing that I feel like a lot of people in my family have. If you getting to a better place in life, and that means your kids get to a better place in life, if you living with me longer, as long as you're doing what you have to do as an adult, means you get to do that, and it kind of guarantees that, I'd rather you stay at home. I mean that shit. And it's just like you actually doing it right. You know, and you grown, as long as you're being respectful. You ain't got no curfew, just be respectful. But like, no, you grown ass man. You come in when you want to. Because, again, I'm all about actually, you know, making real change. And I think real change can't happen if everything that has been done keeps being done in the same way that it's always been done. You're going to keep getting the same results. So if your parents were broke when they were first sent out into the world, unprepared, you know, huge disadvantage financially, no resources, more than likely your kids, your offspring, if you do the same exact things, they're going to have the same exact outcome. So how do you change that? You do some different shit. It ain't complicated. I know you want your own place. I know you want your own spot, but damn it, I guarantee you get there a whole lot quicker if you know, got your money up and got some type of way to make money where you're not slaving your life away for, you know, a company that you really don't want to. At least not your whole entire life. You know, I just think that foundation matters. You know, if you give your family, your kids a better foundation, at the very least, they can at least have a better outcome. You know, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that'll be another point of looking at things. You know, other families from other countries, in other countries as well, they live together, meaning their quality of life, the level of luxury that they have in their life may be different based off of our standards here in America, meaning like their house that they have, it may be considered obviously not as nice, not as modern, just a lot of modern luxuries that we have here, modern day living in the Americas. In America, a lot of them don't have that, and that's normal over there. That's normal. But again, it's a whole different standard over there as far as like, you know, what quality of life is viewed as over there versus over here. You know, over there, having a motorbike is a luxury. Over here, if you have a motorbike and no car, you dusty, you broke. Over here, a motorbike is just like a motorbike, basically, you know. So, but yeah, part of the whole thing over there too is like I said, a lot of families over there, they live together, and sorry, I thought I saw something. They live together, and you know, it makes it really hard to. It makes it easier for them to save money, to get into a position to where they build some wealth up to invest in something, or to, you know, get a home, to start some kind of business, or they'll work in their family's business and use that to also save money and build wealth. Like people in other countries, they just move differently when it comes to just living in general. And it's very, very normal. You know, a lot of other countries, cultures, they're all about family. They're big on family. They're big on, raising children together in a single home. They're not with this whole, you know, new way of living and, you know, dating and marriage. They actually believe in marriage. They actually believe in strong family nucleuses and units. Opposed to over here in the United States, they don't like, marriage over here is a joke. Literally, it's a joke. So, I mean, yeah, I mean that's I think people are far more likely to build wealth when they have a strong family unit, you know, that supports one another and actually works together. Everybody wants to, do everything alone now. So it's like, they can get all the credit, but it's just like, man, it's extremely hard to accomplish anything big in life alone. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very difficult. But again, our egos are so big now that, we want to do everything, by ourselves and, take the credit. But fuck that. Fuck that. Okay. So there's that, But what do y'all think, though? Is it easier to work your way to a very profitable lifestyle? Or do you think that is damn near impossible to achieve that nowadays with the cost of living and all the other challenges of the average modern day American? What do y'all think? A lot of people say that people nowadays are lazy, they're entitled, they don't want to work, they don't want to put the work in. No one ever said it was going to be easy. I don't think that. I think most people, they don't mind doing the work, but at some point, you gotta start to see that your efforts and your energy is paying off. And I think the problem with most people today is they're starting to slowly realize that working, the amount of time and energy that they're putting into their life, something's off balance, something is not right. And at a deeper level, people are starting to realize that, like, why am I working so hard if I'm getting back so little? And so now a lot of people are questioning, why should they keep on working the way that they're working? Because it's not paying off. It's just not. It doesn't make sense to keep doing what you're doing if it's not paying off. And yes, things take time. Yes, things don't happen overnight. But again, what I talked about earlier with the whole, people being able to break the rules and kind of cheat around doing the work, while other people do things the way where they have to put way more energy, way more effort. It's where everybody else is making the sacrifices taking this chance, you know what I'm saying, in one way or another. And I feel like a lot of that's going on, and a lot of people are suffering because of that. And a lot of people, again, when people cheat the system, everything becomes unbalanced. Everything gets thrown out of whack, in my opinion. And I think like that's part of the problem is the system has been cheated for so long, and people are on some level really starting to realize that and feel that. And now it's basically like, okay, I'm in place the entire time. I've been getting finessed because other people have been, again, getting away with into this whole process of, attaining success or financial freedom or whatever. Why is this even on here? I don't know why they got this thing on here. I don't even fucking know, because they don't need this on here. It's just in the way. Oh my God, I don't even fucking know. I tell you, some people ain't too bright. Really ain't. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me put this on here real quick. Sorry, I went out for a second, y'all. Sorry, I went out for a second, y'all. A lot of people. So I went out for a second. Sorry, got disconnected. But a lot of people are basically saying that it's not worth it because they're realizing that the system is basically unbalanced, and a lot of people are cheating the system when a lot of other people were trying to do things the honest way. And again, a lot of people have been getting screwed because people have been cheating the system, and now everything is out of balance. So, yeah, I mean, again, I just wanted people's opinion on what they thought. If you believe that if you just do the hard work, put the work in, focus on yourself, make sacrifices, put the work in, be consistent. If you do those things, like, is it even still worth it? Do you get back what you put into it if you're doing things the honest way? And listen, y'all, I'm not saying that you don't. I have a lot of moments where I question my beliefs on even things like this. I want to believe that if you're honest in life and you put the work and effort in, time and energy and focus and consistency into what you're doing, what you're building, that you will reach your goals in life. But I see so many people that are seemingly kind of somehow skipping past that whole progress, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? How is, okay, if success is only able to be attained by living this life and by, moving in accordance with, your vision and your energy and your actions, how are these people, so I just think that it's really important to question everything, even yourself, even your own beliefs, because everything is just a belief until it's not. It's a belief until it's not, or until kind of observing the world around me while not necessarily getting distracted by it, but really kind of reanalyzing, what is true. because I know that corruption does exist. I know that corruption does exist. And so it's just at this point, I'm like, well, to what level are things corrupt? You know, while not basically, you know, becoming a victim or, feeling like I'm basically victimized by what I am aware of, but just being aware of it. Because, what I become aware of, I may have to start moving differently, because if I know that something's kind of working a certain way and I'm thinking that I'm getting somewhere by using that system, but if I realize that that system is flawed, then I may have to actually find a new way of doing things, or, alter how I do things, So the world around me, observing it more, and I'm really starting to analyze the ins and outs and the intricacies of society, governments. I mean, everything. I'm looking for all of the details to everything. Thing really what people say it is, and does it really work the way that people say that it does? Because what happens is when you start to look at things more closely, what I found true is when you look at things more closely, the illusion of what you've been told that it is begins to kind of dissolve and kind of fall away. The more that I actually look into things and kind of become more aware and more conscious, that it's all just a mind. It's a mind fuck, basically. In other words, it's basically all mental. Even the word government has ment or mental, governmental, government, mental. So govern. What are they governing? It's all in the language, Anyway, I'm just really starting to scrutinize a lot of the things that I'm being told, that I've been told my entire life. And I'm saying to a lot of shit, I'm basically saying, you know what? You had me, but I call bullshit. You had me, but I call bullshit. Like, something's not adding up here. Something's not adding up here. Somebody's lying. Somebody's finessing. Like, and I watched this video the other day where, it was basically a video about basically talking about how a lot of people, even like a lot of these spiritual teachings can be traps too. And people that are very well-meaning people can be leading you astray in many ways. Anyone that's making you feel like you need to constantly like heal yourself or work on yourself, or, it's just a bunch of work to do on yourself. And you just feel like you do these things and you never feel like you're completely healed. Oh, well, you didn't do it right, or you didn't do it the right way. And you have to always, it's like you just literally are sent on this wild goose chase of doing some kind of spiritual work so that you can clear, all this negative karma or energy or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be, so that you can, somehow end up this healed, pure being, And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to, deal with things that, you deal with. But I don't think anybody is ever going to arrive at this place where, nothing in life affects them, or all their traumas and experiences that hurt them just completely go away forever. I don't think that will ever happen. And I think when you get sent on these wild goose chases of, you got to heal something, you have to heal trauma. It's like, okay, well, goddamn, how much trauma do I need to heal? At what point do I just say, okay, you know what, these things happen. I'm still hurt by them. They do affect me still, but you know what? Life goes on. I'm human. Yes, I'm still hurt. Yes, I'm still angry, but you know what? Life goes on. I have a life to live still. But you're told that if you're not healed completely, you're doing something wrong. You know, you're holding on to something, you know, and I'm just like, y'all, for me, that is a trap. It's a trap. I'm sorry, but then it's a trap of, oh, you know, you gotta come back and heal something. You gotta, you know, you have to learn some kind of lesson. You have some kind of karmic debt to pay. I'm like, why are people believing these things? But you'll be told these things, and it's like, you know, you'll be hearing them so long and so often that you'll start to believe that you actually did something wrong, and that's why, you know, anything bad that happens to you happened, or, you know, you caused it somehow, and maybe you did. But I don't believe that every bad thing that happens to you, like you created it. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I don't. Now, I do believe that some bad things that happen to you, you create. But I don't believe that every bad thing is like you somehow on a higher plane of existence. Like, okay, I'm going to create that so that you can learn something from it. I don't believe that. I don't believe, because what happened, if that's true, then that would mean that literally everything that's going on, if you're getting stuck over something you're creating for a lesson and you're not learning the lesson because the thing that you're experiencing is making you be in a state that's basically making that thing happen over and over again. If you believe that you're in that situation because you didn't learn some lesson, like, and you believe that you need to learn some lessons to get past it, like that's a trap. You can just say, I don't think I created this. I think that this shit just happened and it kind of fucked me up, and that's okay, and move on. Like, you don't have to be okay because of what happened. No, it fucked me up mentally in many ways, but I didn't create that. I'm not going to own that. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I created this to learn some kind of lesson, and then not learning the lesson, and then thinking that I have to keep thinking that I have to keep going through that to not experience that no more. To learn, it sounds dumb to me. It does. So a lot of people, even in the spiritual community, have these kind of belief systems about, oh, you know, it's some kind of lesson you have to learn. If you believe that shit, I believe that can literally cause you to literally create those experiences yourself, because you're programming yourself to believe that I deserve this because I didn't learn a lesson. So I have to go through this over and over again, be re-traumatized over and over again because I didn't learn some supposed lesson. Instead of just saying, no, life just happens, fucked up shit happens sometimes, and that's just what it is. There is no lesson. It just happened. It just happened because it could. Now again, do things sometimes happen, and can we learn something from it? Yeah, sure. You know, I believe that, you know, see, I don't trust people that can't be honest or that never think they're wrong. You know, especially when it comes to dating and relationships. Sorry. Yeah, but dating and relationship, I don't trust if a woman, if you're dating someone that never thinks they're wrong, or they don't have the ability to question, you know, their actions, they just don't matter how much evidence you have, how much, you know, proof that, you know, hey, you were wrong. You were wrong. If you're dealing with somebody or a woman in a relationship that doesn't have the ability to at least, you know, contemplate and reflect on themselves and be like, you know what, maybe I was wrong, and they never think they're wrong, they can never be accountable. They never think that they do it. They always think that it's always just something you did. You know, it's always your fault. You know, I've had to over time get to that point because I used to be like that too. But I gained the ability by going within, as people say, and being honest and being like, okay, yeah, I may have made that situation worse than what it would have been had I done things differently. You know, Because honestly, I didn't used to always be honest enough with myself, but I am now. And I'm becoming more honest as, I move forward. But if you're dating someone, a woman in particular, that does not have the ability to look at herself and analyze or question, did I act in the best way, and they just never think that they're wrong, they can never be corrected. Get away from them. Get away from them. I'm telling you, get away from them. A person that never thinks they're wrong is dangerous. A person that can't admit when they're wrong is dangerous. Someone that doesn't matter how many things they do or how many times someone tells them, hey, this thing you did hurt me. They can never, be accountable or never admit when they're wrong. That person lacks empathy, and that person's dangerous. Get away from them. The problem with dating nowadays is why it's so hard is people don't know how to. Nobody has morals anymore, and people lack accountability. Used to be if you did something wrong, you had to be accountable and acknowledge and admit, hey, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. But now it's just like there's no level of accountability. So, if there's no accountability, then, it doesn't matter if I do something wrong, because I have no moral compass. I completely lack integrity, accountability. I lack the ability to even be honest with myself and admit when I'm wrong. This is why people are just heartless now. Cheating is so common now in dating and relationships because people have lost their sense of morality. They've lost their moral compass because, cheating is no big deal. I don't care if I'm hurting this person. It's okay. I wanted to fuck somebody else. It doesn't matter. But she don't know won't hurt them. People have lost their moral compass. People have lost their empathy. People literally don't care anymore. This is why I say, if you get married nowadays, you're a fool. Are there some circumstances, where it does work? Yeah, but it's diabolical out here. It is absolutely diabolical out here. People have completely, again, lost their sense of integrity, lost their morality. People have completely given up their morals. And it's like a lot of things in the Bible when it talks about the last days. And I do believe that we're living in the last days. Now, what are the last days? I have a different take on it. To me, the last days are not necessarily, well, you can look at it in different ways. I do believe in many ways it is kind of a destruction, but not really though. The last days are where I feel like different realities or worlds are being born and other ones are dying. In my opinion, I look around and this world is very much so dying. It is. When I say dying, I mean the structures are kind of crumbling. The way things are done are kind of just basically the illusion of this whole reality, this whole society is really kind of collapsing before everybody's eyes. We're kind of seeing, like, behind the curtain, all the bullshit that's been going on, how a lot of these governments are kind of full of shit. They're kind of lying, they're kind of corrupt, or they don't really know what they're doing, but they're kind of acting like they do or doing the best that they can. A lot of these corporations and jobs, basically the entire matrix, you're seeing it for what it is. And that's causing it to die because The foundation was very weak and fragile to begin with, and it was very, very unbalanced. You know, it wasn't a very balanced system. It was a model that was built on kind of greed, and something that's built upon greed cannot sustain itself because it's going to starve itself. You can't take everything and then leave yourself with nothing, if that makes sense. So, in my opinion, this world has literally starved itself. It did not operate in a balanced or universal way to where it gave back and replenished itself. This world acted more like a parasite unto itself. You know? So yes, I do believe that this world is dying in that sense. And when I think of the last days, I think of, just things getting so bad to where, again, you either evolve into a new perception, a way of thinking about life and existence, or you continue on this mental plane where you just keep going along with that way of consciousness or whatever, and you basically go down with that world, with that reality, metaphorically, physically, spiritually, however you want to look at it. But the last days to me are both symbolic, literal, and spiritual. Mental, physical, and spiritual. So it's the last days of mental world, the physical world, and the mental planes. And a lot of the things that we were seeing in the Bible and heard about what happened, I see it happening. I see how cold and heartless people are, how people lack empathy. I see it. But we became so desensitized to it to where it's normal now. We can't even see how cold we've gotten to one another. This is, and the Bible said that that's what would happen. Now, I don't take everything in the Bible literally, but some things I do. So, yeah, I do believe that we're living in the last days. And you know what? Thank God for that. Thank God for that. Because this system, this matrix it's not sustainable. You can't sustain this. This needs to end. Because it's not working. You can't sustain this. And we know that. Anyway, y'all, my allergies are acting up now. So I'm about to get off here. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.